right? When you're dealing with people, like people's personalities, people have a personality that's how they deal with things, and they funnel people into their world. So if you have to break that, just step outside their world. Like, don't get drawn into people's worlds, right? Don't get drawn into people's strengths. I mean, we talk about this all the time, but don't get drawn into their strengths. Don't get drawn into their way of fighting. Because you're not going to be able to win that battle because you do it all day long, right? So just come at them from a different angle, usually disarm them somehow instead of being confrontational. This is just normal stuff, but instead of being confrontational with somebody, take a little flank and maybe, massage their ego a little bit. But that's it. It's the exact same thing.
Yep.
If people have a way of doing things and you can get outside their pattern, you have a better chance of getting a victory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
All right.
When dealing with new groups of folks, when do you do decentralized command? Right away or gradually? As in, slowly give them trust or slowly take it away as needed?
Again, this is a good, solid question. This is something that people ask on a fairly regular basis, and it's a pretty straightforward answer. Okay, you can't obviously just right away just give people full autonomy, because you have to build it up somewhat incrementally, give them the opportunity to be on their own now. And what you're really building with decentralized command is you're building trust, and that's what you're trying to do. And as I've said before, the best way to build trust is to give trust. But before you give trust, you've got to set expectations. You got to set standards. You got to set guidelines, because this person that you're this is a new person. They might be a crazy. They might be incompetent. They might have a totally different vision of what's okay than you. They might be unethical. There's all kinds of things that they might be that you cannot allow for. So what you have to do is set those standards, set those guidelines, and put those guardrails in place so that you make sure that this person is ethical, make sure that they are professional, make sure that they do have the same standards, make sure that they understand the expectations you set for them. And that's when you can start to hand out more slack and more ownership, because we don't want to micromanage. When I talk about parameters, I'm not talking about telling people exactly how to do it. But let's say you and I started working together and you were my subordinate. If we fast forward 2 years from now, I'd be like, hey, Echo, this is what we're trying to get done. Make it happen. I'll, check back with me when it's done. Mm-hmm. Right? That's how much leeway I'm giving you. I don't even care. Mm-hmm. But when we first started working together, I'm going to be like, hey, Echo, here's what we want to get done. Can you come up with a plan and then let me know? Let me take a look at what you're going to do. Boom. Now, I'm still letting you fully own the plan, but I'm going to do a little check. I'm going to make sure that it's the right gym. I'm going to make sure it's a good plan. I'm going to make sure it's a smart plan. I'm going to make sure it handles our resources correctly. So all those things, I'm just going to, and then the more we work together, the more we build the trust, the more you understand the expectations, the less guidance I'm going to give you, the less oversight I'm going to give you. Yeah. Because because you've built up trust with me, and I've built up trust with you. So that's important. I also want you to be able to make your own decisions, because I don't want to be making decisions all the time, so even in the first scenario, when I've been working with you for a long time, I say, hey, Echo, go figure this out. You go handle it. You get it done. When we first start working together, you might come to me and say, hey, Jocko, I hit this wall. What do you want me to do here? What do you think I'm going to say?
Figure it out.
I'm going to say, figure it out. I'm going to say, hey, man, I don't know. What's your best guess? Or how would you do it? Or, if we knew each other a little bit better, I'd say, hey, man, don't come asking me those questions. Go figure that out. I don't care how you do it. Just get around that wall. Yeah. Boom. And we're done. And now, one other key part of this is, oftentimes, if you take over a new team, you may want to start off by setting the example, by running the perfect operation, by going from end to end with some project that you set the standard on how you want things to be. So everybody looks at you and goes, okay, I see how he did that. Whoa, he wants that done. He holds the line on that. So that way everybody knows what the standard is. So there's, and I would always, when I start off, when I take over a platoon, take over a squad, like, okay, we're doing this operation. Cool. Here's how I would run it. Very distinctly, very clearly be the guy. And then as time goes on and trust develops, I'm going to become less and less the guy and more the the decentralized leader that's stepping back and letting the frontline troopers lead. That's what I'm going to try and make happen. As always, when you do start with a new group, it's real easy. Be humble, listen, take advice, ask questions. Ask good questions about things that if there's something you don't understand, ask the question, no big deal. Make the slow incremental changes like Hackworth talks about in Steal My Soldier Starter. You're just going to change 2 things a day. Not going to change the whole world overnight. You can't do it. So he's going to change 2 things a day. That being said, he also did some major. Remember, if you remember this Hackworth, he gets in there and the guys have radios and they got guitars and they got all this stuff. And he goes, yeah, put all that stuff in the middle of the compound. It's out of here tomorrow. Right? That was a major change. Mm-hmm. So he went and kind of shook him up a little bit. But then he goes, okay, now I got to go to the long war. I'm going to change 2 little things a day. And that's what he did. So sometimes it's a combination of those 2. Sometimes you got to send a little shock value. Like, hey, new sheriff in town. That's what they used to say in the SEAL teams. A new commanding officer would come over. If he would do, a lot of times they do something to assert their presence. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I'm here now. No more parking in the back lot. You know what I mean? Or, hey, new SEAL, I just took over. No more wearing this uniform to this place. Okay. So everyone go, okay, new sheriff in town.
Jocko, what are some workouts to progress in becoming more relaxed in the water? I need to lower my heart rate.
Okay. Again, this is a good question. It's actually a little bit of a universal question. That's why, again, I like to take questions that apply universally to multiple things. Becoming comfortable in the water is very important. Water makes you better. Water makes you a better person. And I'll tell you, I've said this before, in the SEAL teams, one of the things that makes us good in the SEAL teams is we have to deal with water, and water is a pain in the ass. It ruins things, it floods things, it stops things. It stops guns from working, it stops radios from working, it stops humans from working. You drown in it. Water is very tough to deal with. It's a very harsh environment, especially the ocean water. I used to say that every time you go in the water, it's a real blow-off because you can get killed. You can get killed in the ocean. You can get killed in the ocean today if you make the wrong moves. So you definitely need to be comfortable in the water. Now, first things first, water will kill you. Water will kill you. You will die. Yep. If you make mistakes in the water, you will die. So whoever wrote this question and whoever's going to heed my advice here, note and be advised that water will kill you. So when you swim, you got to have a lifeguard. And there's a couple examples. A guy I went through SEAL training with who was a stud, a complete stud. He was the honor man of my buds class. And a great guy. It's cool to be honor man. It means you're a good athlete. But this guy was also beyond that. Was just a great guy, extremely motivated. His name was Keith Kimura. And he was practicing breath holds. As he was, this was, after we went through SEAL training and he had gone to a SEAL team and served and he'd come back to be a SEAL instructor. And he was practicing breath holds during an evolution for the students. And while all that was going on, they're doing stuff with the students and he's down there practicing breath holds.
Like on his own kind?
He was in the group, but on his own, if that makes sense. So there's a big evolution going on. Right. And while this big evolution going on, he's kind of doing his own thing.
Right.
And he died. He was doing breath holds. He stayed down there. He had a shallow water blackout and he died, and it was awful. What an incredible guy. We also had some SEALs, 2015, that were in Virginia Beach, young studs getting after it, training super hard, and they both died in the pool in Virginia Beach. And again, these are frogmen. These guys are pushing themselves and trying to make themselves better, and they push that envelope, and that's what SEALs do. And they pushed it and they went over the line, and unfortunately they were training together at the same time. So you got to be safe. Don't train alone And don't train with someone that's doing the same thing as you at the same. You can't
Yeah.
endure the same thing together. You know,
Yeah.
it's a real simple rule. It's a 1 up, 1 down. So if it's your turn to train, I stay out. And then you do your evolutions, and then when you're done, okay, now it's my turn to train, you stay out and you watch me. It's a 1 up, 1 down. That has to be the standard. Again, people don't play around with the water. You know, I've had shallow water blackouts, and they just come and that's it. You're unconscious. And if someone's not there to drag you out, you're going to drown. You're going to die. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, you can tell that they're coming a little bit, and you get used to them, but it's sort of like getting choked out in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, you've been choked out before, right?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah, so you think you're going to make it,
Yeah.
and then you don't.
And you can push it too. That's the thing. Especially when you're training. Like when I'm trying to get strong, you want to be, if you have some fight in you, you know, you want to be able to fight, you know, so you push it a lot of times, especially when you have experience. You push it a little bit, and then sometimes, because you just got to go, you can feel the blackout coming, but once you go right past that point, you can't tap anymore.
Nope.
You go out.
Nope.
Jiu-jitsu's safe because usually the guy can feel you go out and they let you go. But bro, in the water,
It's like you know what the event horizon is in a black hole?
yeah,
There's a line.
that
If you
one
go over
little
that line, you're done.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happens with your consciousness. You can see that line. You're watching.
Yeah,
You're like, oh,
you
I'm gonna
see it
be okay.
coming.
I'm gonna make it. And then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yep.
And you're over the line. You're in the black hole, and that's it. So be very, very careful when you're doing this. Always have a swim buddy, swim with a lifeguard, all that stuff. Now, back to the question, beyond the safety portion, is how do you get more comfortable in the water? You spend time in the water. Swim, surf, spear fishing, snorkeling, scuba diving, survival floating, breath holds, treading water. Just that's how you get comfortable in the water, is by being in the water. Give yourself little challenges. Swim with t-shirts in your hands. Swim with your clothes on. Swim, de-jock while you're just all those things to get to be in the water and do things and swim, and that's how you get more comfortable in the water, and you'll rapidly increase your ability to be in the water and handle yourself in the water, and you'll be much more calm in the water. And the reason I said this is a universal question is because it's the same thing with just about everything else that you're going to do. It's the same thing with swimming. It's the same thing with doing you want to get good at pull-ups? Do more pull-ups. You want to get better at public speaking? Get up and start doing public speaking. Same thing with shooting. Like when people first start shooting and they're all intimidated by firearms, it's because they're not used to them. So spend time shooting, spend time around guns. You'll get used to the muzzle flash. You get used to the concussion of the noise, and you will be more comfortable about it. So that's what you need to do in the water. You spend more time in the water, and you'll get better at it. You'll get more comfortable.
What's the dichotomy in having an ego? When is it good? And when does it get to a point where you have to check your ego?
Okay, so the dichotomy is pretty clear. Ego drives you. Absolutely. It makes you want to win. It makes you want to perform well. It makes you proud of your achievements. It makes you want to be number one. And those are all good things, and I fully have those myself. I mean, my ego will keep me up at night trying to win at some ridiculously meaningless thing in the world. Especially when I was younger. It was kind of stupid. But the ego can also get you in trouble really, really quickly. For instance, I mean, your ego can make you sabotage your coworker that's on the same team as you so that you can outshine them, right? That's ego. You can vote down a better plan, because that plan isn't yours. That's your ego. You can chase some material items, something that you don't really need. Maybe in some cases it might even be something that you don't actually even want. And it's just fueling your ego, which is a really bizarre thing to see. It can make you step on your subordinates, right? It can make you undercut your peers because that ego flares up. Your ego can make you dig in dig in on some stupid ideas that you've had. Those are the kind of things that ego do, and all those things are negative. So that's pretty clear to me where ego starts going sideways. And I would say, even though like my ego always fueled me to want to win, but I never was that out of control where I was like screwing people over because I wanted to win. No, I wouldn't do that. That wasn't part of my personality. I'm not that. Plus, I was never really naturally good at much, so it wasn't like I was gonna win. The only way I could beat people and things was by outworking them.
Yeah.
Other than that, it would be hard for me.
Yeah, usually that kind of person who, like you, well, the two kinds of people. One who is down to like screw someone over or basically cheat. You're cheating is what you're doing. It's like, I want to be here. They don't necessarily want to quote unquote win, because if you cheat, it's not really winning.
That's
you know, the whole benefit of winning is like overcoming certain things, you know. But when you cheat, it's like, you're not, I mean, you cheated, you know, whatever. So it's more about you understanding really what winning is, and that's what you like, the winning, you know.
Yes.
That's why. So like people who undermine, you know, cheat and do this stuff, it's like they don't want to win.
I'll give you a good case in point. I remember when I was going to SEAL training, there was guys that would like brag about it. They were going through the same SEAL training class as me, same BUDS class as me, but they would like brag about it, and like you could hear them talking to, let's say, some random person. Like, yeah, I'm in SEAL training. I wasn't bragging about that. I was like, hey man, I'm lucky I'm here. And I realized that a lot of those people quit because they were comfortable. They just being able to say like SEAL training, they were already good with it. They were like, oh yeah, I did what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So me, I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I didn't want to say anything until I made it through.
Yeah.
And so, So what I'm saying is, similar to what you're saying, they were satisfied just by being able to throw that out there.
Right.
That was enough for them. So for someone that's willing to cheat and win, or they're willing to step on someone, man, that doesn't feel good to me. That's never felt good to me. Like if I got to step on someone, I don't even want it. I don't want that victory. Don't want it.
So it's like some people want to look like they won, and other people want to really win.
Yeah, of course.
That's really the difference.
Yeah. So back to the ego point, when you start feeling like you're doing some of those negative things, that's when you gotta put your ego in check. That's what you gotta support your coworker instead of sabotaging. That's when you gotta pick the best plan out there instead of picking your own. That's when you say, you know what, I'm happy with what I have, instead of chasing things that I don't even need. You know what I'm talking about? When people like, if you ever, there's been something that you wanted, even though you actually didn't even really want it, but you just want it just because it's pure ego. Pure ego.
Yeah, like when you're in the weight room, well, growing up, like lifting weights, some guys would do this where they'd be lifting weights, and you can see a lot of times in these like a 24-hour fitness situation where guys will be lifting weights, and then one guy he's like, dang, he's lifting kind of a lot. You'll see someone all of a sudden be doing that same exercise, like trying to lift more than that. He doesn't know him. You're not lifting with him. He wasn't even doing that exercise. It wasn't even his workout, but he'll like try to do it, you know? Yeah. Bro, you weren't even doing that exercise. You weren't doing bench today. Yeah. And now you're doing bench, you know? Chasing something you don't even want.
Don't even want it that day. Don't need it that day. That's another big one, is like when I talk about subordinates. Instead of cutting down your subordinates, you start lifting them up. You start making them shine. You start giving them the credit, making them shine even brighter than yourself. That's the beautiful thing, when you can put your ego in check and you can make that happen. Making your own boss look good, having an open mind to new ideas. Those are the things. That's how you put your ego in check. Those are the things that. Those are the hallmarks of having your ego in check. Now, sometimes people don't know when they need to put their ego in check, and I think there's one really easy indicator to know when you need to just at least like do an assessment of your ego, and that is when you come into conflict with another person. Because a huge percentage of conflicts that you have with other people are ego.
Yeah.
Are their ego. And So when you feel that conflict, whether it's about positioning, whether it's about an idea, whether it's about a plan, whether it's about, well, no matter what it's about. But if I'm in conflict with you on something, immediately I'm going to say, okay, wait a second. Is this your ego talking?
Yeah.
Or are you, is this business or is this ego?
Yeah.
And if you do that, you will find yourself, any form of frustration or anger that you have, just check your ego. And there's a good chance that you're going to be able to take that thing, get a hold of it, and aggressively put it in check. It's hard. Your ego is a tough bastard.
Yeah.
Your ego, man, that thing wants the spotlight. It wants to shine. It wants the glory. And it's driven. You know, that's a lot of you high achievers out there. That's what's driving you. And that's not a bad thing. So when it comes time to harness that bad boy, it can be a challenge. But it's very rewarding when you make it happen. It's rewarding in a long-term gratification. It's not immediate gratification. Yeah. Generally, you're giving your subordinates all the credit for some project that they did. And you know that you could actually know that you did the bulk of the work, but you give it away. That's not gratifying immediately. The immediately is like, yeah, that's right. Put the accolades on my head, boss. That's immediate gratification that you're looking for. No, you say, hey, boss, you know what? Don't put the accolades on my head. Look at my team. Let's crown them because they really did a great job. And I'm just here to help them. There's no gratification in that. But when you get feedback a week later, a month later, 6 months later, people want to come and work for your team. Now your team gets picked for another project. That's the long-term gratification that you get when you keep your ego in check.
Yeah.
So this is an example. I don't see this all the time, but I do see it sometimes. And what we have here is, clearly, guy steps up and says, you know what, I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to take extreme ownership, which is what I'm always encouraging people to do. Leif and I wrote the book. We called the book Extreme Ownership because that is the fundamental principle that we see as the common trait that makes people successful when they're taking ownership instead of blaming other people. So that's what this guy did with the roofing company. Hey, I'm going to take ownership of all the mistakes. Now, the problem there is with the concept of extreme ownership, it means taking ownership of the mistakes, taking ownership of the problems, but it doesn't stop there. That is simply where you start, because the real true ownership that you need to take is you need to take extreme ownership of the solutions, of implementing the solutions, of creating and implementing the solutions. That's what you need to take ownership of. So in a situation like this, like for instance, I took ownership of everything, so my team became entitled. Now, first of all, in that statement in its own right, if I say, hey, we failed because my team became entitled, what did I just do? I blame them for becoming entitled. Why did they become entitled? I allowed them to. What am I going to do to solve that? I either have to change the way I'm treating them. Maybe there's a couple cancers in there that have that attitude, and I need to fire those people or replace them or get them retrained or put some ownership on them so that they realize, I'm going to lose my job if we're going to fail this mission, or the company's going out of business if I don't do this right. So that's the mistake there. So you've identified the problem, you're taking ownership of it. Hey, we got to make sure we get our jobs done on time. Okay, boss, well, you didn't order the gear in time and you didn't do this and now we're behind, so it's not our fault. And by the way, pay me. If that's the attitude your employees have, you got a problem as a leader. So what is the problem? How do you fix that problem? The thing is about ownership is taking ownership of the problem doesn't fix the problem. Right? It doesn't fix the problem. You still have to come up with the solution. So that's what it is. When we talk about extreme ownership, we're definitely not just talking about owning the problems, but like I said, owning the solutions and owning the implementation, and actually carried to its furthest stretch to its furthest outcome. That's where you have to take extreme ownership of, and this is the most important part. And obviously I need to make this clear enough because this should be something that everyone fundamentally understands when they talk about extreme ownership. The most important part for you to own as a leader is the outcome, is the end state. If you are not meeting your end state, that's what you have to take ownership of. That's what you have to make happen. So that's it. You know, when your company's not doing the right thing, yeah, you got to take ownership of the mistakes that happen. You got employees that are acting wrong. Yeah, hey, it's my fault that they're acting wrong. You got deadlines that you're missing. Yes, it's my fault that we missed the deadlines. Now you got to go back and ask yourself the question, how do I make the deadlines? How do I fix those employees? You got to solve those problems that are out there. Otherwise, extreme ownership doesn't do anything for you. And we've talked about this before as well. And that is that taking ownership of things is not a shelter.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't provide shelter.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And some people think it does. They go, "Hey, you know what? Hey, we failed on our mission. It's my fault." Okay, so let's move on. No. Actually, no. We don't move on. You failed in your mission. How are you going to fix it?
Yeah.
Extreme ownership does not give you any mercy whatsoever. That's what's hard about it. And by the way, the thing that extreme ownership that makes it hard is because the previous question, it attacks your ego. Because when you say, hey guys, this is my fault, you're not just saying, hey guys, this is my fault, let's move on. You're saying, this is truly my fault. Yeah. We failed because of me. And these are the things we're going to do to fix it, and I'm going to own it until we get it done.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like, it is one of those all or nothing things, where it's just funny how you put it, where you're like, I did my extreme ownership, the rest is up to you guys, kind of thing. You can't really do that.
And this question is a really good question, and I appreciate it because you can see the guy that asked it, he clearly is motivated, wants to do well, right. But and again, my fault for not explaining this well enough. He thought that just taking ownership would solve the problem. No, You have to take ownership and solve the problem. Matter of fact, the taking ownership part is the initial part that lets the rest of it happen. And that's why we emphasize it so much, because most people, they just don't take ownership. They're not even close.
Yeah.
This guy, he's close. He's taking ownership. Now he's got to realize, okay, I took ownership. I realize that it's my fault. And again, it's not just him saying, well, it's my company, so it's my fault. And so I hope this works out. No, I don't hope anything. You fix it. You make it happen. And I appreciate this question because I could see in his earnest asking of the question, like he's like, man, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Here's what you did wrong. You made the first step, which is the hardest step. That's the positive here. One of the most positive things about this guy is he's made the hardest step, which is, okay, this is my fault. The follow-on is what he missed. Now, how do I fix it? What do I do to implement it? You got lackadaisical, entitled employees. That is your fault. So how do you fix them? Because if you're lackadaisical and entitled around me, that means I'm doing something wrong. That means you don't understand the mission. You don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. You don't understand why it's important to meet the deadline on this roof so we can move on to another one, so that we can collect money to pay for our next one. There's all kinds of reasons that you could tell people why these things are important. And if you have people that they know exactly why they're doing what they're doing and they still aren't getting in the game, you need to find some more people to come and work for you. Yeah. Some different people. Some people with better attitudes, and bring them on board with the right attitude.
You have this even to add to why this is such a good question, this is exactly what people are scared of with the extreme ownership. It's like, dang, if I take extreme ownership over everything, they're going to take advantage, or they're going to, be entitled or whatever. That even thinking about it, that's what I'd be afraid of. That's what I am afraid of,
And I will tell you, having done this my whole career, when you take ownership of things, people don't. There's a small chance. There's a couple knuckleheads like the idiots that this guy has working for him that are entitled. Now, I shouldn't say that, because he may have provided the environment to become like, he might have been the easy button. And every time they say, "Hey boss, I can't hey boss, I can't come in late today. Can you finish up that roof by yourself?" And he's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to take ownership of this." Right? He goes, "Okay, I'm going to take ownership. Don't worry about it. I got it." Now he does that 4 days in a row. He's worked 16-hour days. He's starting to get broken mentally and physically. You ever done roofing before?
Yeah.
Have you ever done any roofing?
Yeah.
That's hard work,
Yeah.
especially in the summertime when the blazing sun, 14, 16-hour day. I pulled a chimney off my little chimney off my roof one time. I thought I was going to just patch the roof. No, I had to strip like a third of my roof on my house. And then I'm up there. We got rainstorms coming. I'm up there. Okay, I got to roof this whole thing in the next, 18 hours? Get some. Yeah. So roofing is hard work.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't get these employees in the right mindset, if they're not part of the team, if they're not on board, how are you going to fix that? And what I was going to say is if you become the easy button all the time, then that allows them, it fosters the attitude of, hey, you know what? This is on Jocko. He's the one that he's still got to pay me.
Yeah.
Like, no, actually, here, let me tell you how it really works. You know how I pay you regardless of what you do? Well, eventually, I don't pay you anything because you don't work here and I don't have a business anymore. So if that's where you're at, I don't want you here. And I will do this myself, and I'll schedule my jobs appropriately so I can do it all myself. If you want to get in the game and be part of this team, which you should, then this is what I need from you. Here's the expectations. This is why. Because this year we did 14 roofs. Next year, I want to do double that. And that means I'm going to get you a crew that's going to work for you, and you're going to bump your pay up a little bit. I'm going to get you moving along and get you promoted. Maybe sometime you'll have 2 or 3 teams working for you. Do you want to do that, or do you want to continue being the guy that's hauling shingles all day? Are you in the game with me or not? Are you part of this gig? See, so you got to get in their heads. You got to get them out of that mindset and into the right mindset so that you can dominate.
Yeah, I feel like that extreme ownership kind of provides that too. You know, where if, like how you've always said, if you're like blaming them, overtly blaming them, they're like, oh, this guy's not on my team. They have that feeling. But if he's taking the responsibility, it's like, oh, dang, this guy's kind of on my team. Yeah, I do want to do all that for you.
You're right. Classic example. If I approach you and I'm like, Echo, dude, you're just entitled. You're entitled. Yeah. You don't have a good attitude. What attitude do you have now?
Yeah.
What attitude do you have now? Now you're like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm entitled.
Yeah.
What are you saying? I'm entitled?
Yep.
Yeah, you're damn right I'm entitled because look at what I've been doing. No, whereas if I take a different approach with you and say, man, look, I think you got a lot of potential. You know, I think you got a lot of things going on at home, and I know you got that girlfriend, and I know you're doing this and that, but you know what? I think you got some potential here. Let me show you what it's going to lead. You know, I know you don't want to be carrying shingles for the rest of your life and on your knees smacking nails, right? But maybe you could be running a crew. And this is how I want to grow. Do you kind of want to get in the game with me? Because I think you might. You see what I'm saying? That's all it takes.
You understand me.
Yes.
Yeah. Thoughts on how to deal with toxic/negative people?
Oh, those people. Yeah. So, first of all, it's important to recognize that those people exist everywhere, and everybody's got to deal with me. If you run into one of these people, don't get all surprised as if they're a lone ranger out there being negative. No, there's negative rangers all over the place. So you got to know how to deal with them, and it's so when you're dealing with someone like that, first of all, confronting them, of course, as you can probably predict, is not usually the best option, because all you're doing is you're attacking their heavily defended position, which is not good. So one of the techniques that I use when dealing with these kind of people is I absorb their critiques, I absorb their toxicity, I absorb their negativity. Now, obviously, this takes a little bit of strength, right? You can't be taking stuff personally. You have to, in order to learn how to absorb things, you gotta say, okay, I'm just doing this for the team, right? Mm-hmm. But it looks like, for instance, when they say, oh, this is horrible, I don't say, no, it's not horrible. I don't just go right back at them. I say, yeah, you know what? We definitely got some room for improvement, right? So I kind of just deflected it. I kind of just absorb it, right? Absorb it a little bit. Because what they want to do is they're lashing out, right? They're throwing the negativity. They like those explosions. They like to see it hit something and blow up. That's what they're doing. That's how they roll. So you're going to absorb. You're going to catch it and pull it in, right? So when they're like, oh, we can never do this, I don't say, we can absolutely do this. No, because you're going to create the explosion that they're looking for. Instead, I'm saying, you know what? We might not be able to do it, but I'm going to give it a good solid try. I'm going to try and make it happen, right? So we're just deflected it a little bit, and they're going to throw you some other negative thing. And, if they say, oh, this is stupid, I don't say, no, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. I don't do that. Don't go head to head. I'm going to say, you know what? There's definitely some room for improvement the next time around. You're right, 100%. Ooh. Yeah, you just got deflected. And those reactions, they disarm these ultra negative people. And it kind of takes their fight from them. And it also makes them look like emotional extremists. So with the group, right? When somebody calls that out in the group, and they're coming across all extreme, and you just absorb it and negate it a little bit, it negates their view, or I shouldn't say negate, because negate means like totally cross out. When you just absorb it and deflect it a little bit, the rest of the team goes, oh, yeah, Echo, he's just super emotional. He's a negative. They see him for what he is, which is helpful for you, right? And then once I'm done absorbing their attacks and taking some of those shots, no big deal, then I'm going to start to override them somewhat with some positivity, which is going to be directed at them. Right? So they were all negative, but I'm going to say, hey, what you did there really worked well. Or, hey, good job on that. I don't know. I never could have figured that out like you did. Right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start getting in their head a little bit and start filling their head with some positive stuff. That's right. That's what I'm going to do. Man, you figured that out better than anybody. Nicely done. And I'm bringing them from the dark side over to the light. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing them over. Yep. And actually, I used to have the funniest, one of my favorite guys in the SEAL teams. He was my first deployment to Iraq. He was the senior enlisted guy in our task units, and actually we're just bros. But when one of us would start getting a little off the reservation on something, like getting all addicted to some idea or something, the other one we would be looking at, like I'd be telling him like, we need to do this and this is bullshit, we need to do, and he'd look at me like, he'd be like, Jocko, come back, come back to the light, come on, we're over here, it's okay. We're all going to be okay. So when I would start getting negative, he would start pulling me back to the light, right? And same thing with me, with him. He would get all, Matter of fact, he's the guy. Remember when we talked about,
simplify, repeat. That guy?
No, simplify, amplify, and repeat. That's him. Yeah. That's him. He would also have to bring me back from the dark side, and I have to do it to him too if he started getting a little too negative. Good times, but. The last thing I want to do with someone that's being super negative is I want to give them some ownership. I want to give them some ownership, some ability to make changes, some ability to have some kind of a positive impact on the mission. So I'm going to pick something that I think they can step up and handle, right? Something that is within their grasp and realm and ability, and I'm going to give it to them. And then I'm going to kind of overload them with help and with assistance and with guidance to make sure that they win. And that's going to start spinning them in a more positive direction. Yeah. So that's my way to deal with the big negative people out there. Just absorb and slowly counter.
I like that how you'd be like, hey, I like how you figured that out. And I said this before, but a good one is to say, hey, that's what I like about you. You're real, whatever, XYZ, Isn't that feeling like, because people said that to me, that's what I like about you. You're real, whatever, And it makes you want to, continue to be that, And you're like, hey, he thinks I'm, a problem solver. So I'm going to be aware and just continue to solve problems,
You put the self-fulfilling prophecy in their own head. Yeah. The positive things that you want them to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
good times.
Jocko.
Next question,
Jocko.
Let's do it.
I'm an INTJ personality. My drive/ideas often cause friction with superiors. How can I use my strengths without creating division?
Okay, so for this one, I kind of had to look up this stuff to remember exactly what it was, and the INJT or INTJ stuff is introverted, intuitive thinking, judging. This is part of this Myers-Briggs type indicator that refers to one of 16 psychological types, right? So it's sort of a graph that you can figure out what type of 16 different psychological types that there are. And so for this one in particular, this INJT, which like I said is introverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging. And I went to the interwebs for this.
Sure.
And it said that as an INTJ, your primary mode of living is focused internally, where you take things in primarily via your intuition. Your secondary mode is external, where you deal with things rationally and logically. So, speaking of self-fulfilling prophecies, this is kind of one of them. And as far as I'm concerned, your personality and anyone's personality is not set in stone by any stretch. And of course, can you have some natural tendencies as a person? Of course you do have some natural tendencies. And if your brain was on autopilot, you would steer towards those personality traits even more. But luckily, our brain is not on autopilot, and you have your hands on the wheel, and you can control your mind, and you can, in this case, step back and get a grip on things that, according to the question, that cause friction, right? If as an INGAT, you are supposedly too demanding, and these are little quotes that they had. If you're too demanding or not open to other people or not open to other ideas, here's what you do. Real simple. Get less demanding. Right? If you have a hard time listening to other people, listen to other people. If you, and this was another quote I got from the INJT personality matrix, if you are supposed to have a low tolerance of emotion in others, then get more tolerance for emotions in others. This isn't hard. You identified what the issues are. You've heard me say this all the time. Listen to other people, treat them with respect. These things are not doing that, so do them. That's really simple. There's no reason for you to fulfill this prophecy of being a person that's not open to others' ideas, a person that has low tolerance for other people. There's no reason for you to be overly demanding. You don't have to be this way. Just because that's your personality type, allegedly, that doesn't mean you have to be that way.
Jocko, we all know bad things happen to good people sometimes. How do you deal when those things happen to people around you?
Very true. That sometimes bad things, horrible things happen to good people. And I don't know why, but life isn't fair. That's the reality. And disease, like cancer and MS and horrible diseases and accidents and these things, a good person in the wrong place in the wrong time can end up just a victim of fate and of reality. And it can be horrible and heart-wrenching. But when those bad things happen to people around you, what are you going to do? How are you going to lead? Are you going to get angry? Are you going to get frustrated? Are you going to lash out at people? Who are you going to lash out at anyways? Are you going to start going down the spiral of negativity? Are you going to let this horrible situation dictate the way you feel and the way you handle it? Are you going to fall over and fall down and fall apart? Or are you going to lead? Are you going to face this issue with courage and with resolution? I say lead. Lead. Step up to the challenge. Be the one that other people look to. Absorb that impact. Absorb that negativity. Draw fire. Draw fire. That's when a member of a platoon, for tactical reasons, steps into the open to draw enemy fire. Maybe to give another part of his team the chance to move or distract the enemy. But that's what I say. Draw fire. Bring that pain to me. I can handle it. When maybe others cannot. When bad things are happening, I am going to try and be the one good thing. The thing standing tall that can be relied upon. Because I know that attitude will spread. It will bolster those around me. And we will fight. And in fighting, we will win. And if not the battle, and if not the war, we will win because our spirit, it will never surrender. And that is the ultimate victory. To hold your head high, and even in the face of inescapable defeat, to stand and to fight. That is to win.